Making a video. Yeah, morning video. Yeah, out early. It's very quiet here and whatnot. And such. Plants. We'll just walk around the garden, I suppose. Um, Two videos I wanted to respond to in some way. Um, just thought-provoking. And I guess that's the subject, is what provokes people to think and maybe reanalyze what they think, analyze it in a new way. And obviously I'm sort of an advocate for this idea that we can actually influence each other through these conversations in some sort of, constructive way that makes change possible, that allows that let's see, what's the right word? I mean, it gets into all this determinism crap and the idea that all this is already written in a script somewhere, and I'm just reading the script, and that this is true, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the fact that we have to do that. We have to actually perform our function, and we have to perform it because there's some sort of logic that tells us to do that, some sort of understanding, let's say. So anyway, the video, the modern mystic was responding to some video, one of these kind of self-help things, like, it could have been titled "Be a Better Person," or make yourself more productive, or maybe if it was titled something else, be inspired by this article to change bad habits, or something just as more explicit, he might have found it tolerable, maybe, I don't know. He would have probably found it less mockable. But yes, they use the word willpower, which implies the fact that there's this whole word will in power, and all these words are just kind of not really great words. But I've said that often, that there isn't much of value, in terms of our vocabulary as human beings. Not wearing any clothes. Anyway, yeah, there's nobody around. And that we can. It's really lots of flowers coming. It's the only real bright red thing I have this year, so I have to make more of those, obviously. There's not it's brain is brain, and internally it has only so many resources, and they're just kind of clockworky in a very small clock way. And then there's the bigger clockwork of all of us communicating, but it's still clockwork. I mean, we're still doing our script reading, we're still doing our I turn this way, you turn this way, everybody turns a certain way. And I sort of have this impression that over time the clockwork will tend to tell time. It tends to do something reasonably. Ooh, there's a sign of the. Oh, that's Japanese beetle. Okay, that's good. The caterpillars will show up soon and start eating the petunias, so I have to be aware of that. Anyway, so there's this bigger clockwork, and that it has over time made us, let's say, better. Where the memes of our understanding of the world have to some extent advanced. I might say that the last 20 or 30 years might have gone backwards quite a bit. But you could argue, okay, slavery is sort of, for most people on Earth, is not realistically sensible. And, women having rights and all that kind of stuff seems perfectly reasonable. That they would have a capacity and a desire to be considered fully human and all that kind of bullshit. So, I mean, these are just kind of obvious, kind of simple improvements in human psychology. But has there been much growth in anything else? I mean, in a lot of ways, it does seem people have embraced some, not so good memes when it comes to fixing anything. They've become kind of defeatist and antagonistic to any kind of system. They think, because one system screwed them, all systems are evil. Kind of like the psychology of the victim, the rape victim or something. All men are evil because one man treated them like crap. These are dangerous attitudes, dangerous to being empowered or empowered. I used one of the whatever you want to call those words. But anyway, so anyway, he's just kind of mocking this idea that we're creatures of habit. We're poorly inspired, let's say. There's a lot of mechanisms in our environment that might make us less capable of being the best person we could be, getting things done. And I think certainly psychologically we can see our bad habits owning us, in terms of not doing the things. Well, we really wanted to get something done, and of course we didn't do it because we didn't want to do it, and we didn't want to do it because we habited ourselves into a mindset where we think we're entitled to something else, maybe, or we can't see the same kind of, it's not as much fun as some other habit, some other activity. And so we avoid doing what we need to do because we want to do what we want to do, kind of thing, or more enjoy doing. So anyway, I just thought it was kind of an unnecessary kind of mocking of the fact that we are creatures of habit and that we can be retrained. We can acquire new habits, let's say. And we can do that through some trick of inspiration. The words somebody else says, mantras, and just simple routines that somebody else has acquired. Whatever the routine is, waking up and, jogging around the living room for 5 minutes, get your brain going and changes your day, kind of thing. Well, that's perfectly reasonable. It can change how you approach your day. Not running versus running will probably change how you'll navigate the rest of your day. So I just don't think there's any use in picking on that. All right, the other video was Snake Plisskenus played some inane spirit science video thing, and it's this complete woo-woo founded philosophy, and I don't know why he played the whole video, because it was just such a tedious, you could just see what was coming just because of the long way they were getting around to saying it. Kept talking about how you're control and all this kind of stuff, and like promising some sort of revelation. As soon as somebody says they got a revelation, some sort of radical new idea, you're in for a religion coming up very soon. But anyway, so he's just it's hard to tell when he's saying something. Little spider there, sort of, I don't know if it's worth noting. It's kind of a weird variety of spider looking thing. Anyway, so the parts I guess he gleaned out of it was this idea of you can just living this life of intuitively. And so the theme of this spirit thingy or whatever is that we need to all hug each other or something, or some other kind of bullshit. The religion of being a human and getting in touch with your humanity and I don't even know how far the mumbo jumbo goes. But I've seen pieces of that kind of stuff, and I just, so the basic theme is that we're, there's some special energy, harmonics that we're leaching to each other, and that if we, get in touch with the human vibrations, good things will happen. Yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, I don't want to get to the conclusion. I want to get to the bits he was using, which was this idea that you can, that humans first have useful intuition, which, intuition is just basically your first impressions. And first impressions are usually just your bigotries, your habits, the themes and ideas that are running dominant inside of you. And they're usually not, I would say, an exercise of your best judgment. It certainly seems logical that thinking would be an asset, not a deficit. And it just seems like these are always the people who are advocating for some sort of intuition, are people who think living a sloppy life is a good life, rather than trying to maximize your functionality and try to get the most out of your humanity and not waste too much time, doing useless activities versus, more productive activities. And then the whole approach he took was one of such personal, anecdotal, look at what a success I am. This is a guy who drinks habitually, which is not really a sign of having your act together. I mean, realistically, is it? I don't think it is. He lives in poverty and, has had all kinds of events happen to him in his life that are examples of, oh man, that could have got you in jail. And yet he talks like it, well, look, I got lucky, therefore it's a great philosophy. And you're like, well, that doesn't seem like the kind of advice people need. Look, you try it, I got lucky, you try it. What good is that as a lesson or as a piece of advice or as a piece of musing, I guess you'd say, right? It'd be people should muse each other. It's not the right word, I'm not sure. Anyway, into being inspired to be the best they can be. That was kind of a, unfortunately, very powerful kind of army propaganda, to get people to, the recruiting people use that kind of rhetoric. But it's kind of nice, the fern in the sun. But it's sort of true, right? I mean, there is a best you can be. There is a peak performance, and you kind of try to want to get that out of your life. And so you kind of know that there's certain things you have to do to get there. You can see that spider web. Maybe find a good angle. Yeah, a little tricky to get the sun just right. But those crab spiders are so annoying. I guess it's getting to be their time of year. They put up their webs in front of my paths everywhere. I'm always walking into them. So, I was sorry I'm not doing this as well as I'd hope to do it. But because I'm just there's something valuable in recognizing that we, all these individual humans are doing something collectively. I mean, we're doing something as individuals, we're clocking, and then we're doing something as a collective in the sense that the clocks that work better, one would hope they could, motivate the clocks that ain't doing so good because of their bad habits, like glug, 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 or some other bad habit, and that getting out of those bad habits, would be a really good thing. And even the bad habits of thought processes of, when we are rationalizing, when we're finding excuses for behavior. And so that sort of has come up in the as a thought in my head, just in the idea that you see it with these people resisting the idea that civilized humans should do better than eating other sensitive creatures and torturing them, and they should desire to do better than that. And clearly it's something doable. It's just that they don't want to do it because it requires a change of habit, and changes in habit are inconvenient, and so you have to be motivated to change those habits. You have to be motivated to change, to allow yourself to change, to have the clockwork changed by ideas, by new symbols of change, putting a new symbol of change in your environment. Maybe this is a symbol of change or something. I mean, this year I did, it's a subtle little anecdotal story, but I mean, I used to have a garden every year, and then I just gave up because of the deers, and I decided to try again. I was, and it's a kind of a symbolic thing, in terms of regaining some portion of myself back, and because it's something I liked, and so yeah, it's something I liked, and it I extracted it from my routine, and I'm glad to have it back. The tomatoes aren't doing bad, but they're not quite where they should be. I got tomatoes on them anyway, and so stuff is growing. Look, hummingbird. She's a big one too. But it can't do anything here. Yeah, can't get in there. So, yeah, they seem to like the morning and the night more. So, where was I? Well, I got so much to do. See, I got so much to do. Instead, I'm making a video because I have a lot of bad habits. Yeah. And so I definitely need to do work. I can see it in myself that there's a lot of work I need to do in terms of getting myself back into more productive routines and habits. And what inspires somebody to do that, whether just putting their running shoes by the bed, I don't see anything mockable about this, recognizing that there's certain triggers to our behavior. And this just seems, so I just don't see the point in critiquing that. I mean, I see a point in mocking everything being turned into nursery school kind of, gingerbread story, religion kind of mumbo jumbo, talking about willpower or something is just kind of bogus, because these words don't mean a whole lot. But the idea that we are motivatable and changeable through our interaction with each other is, I think, a real powerful mechanism that we have to learn how to use better to be able to hit home. Go back to a James Young Servant video. You have to be able to get to where people live, where what means something to you. I have to try to ride on whatever it is, whatever your spirit animal is. If I can get on top of one of those and ride that as a mechanism, then maybe you're going to be more receptive to something I might say, or you'll be more capable of being changed by it. To have it constructively empower you to be a better person, and that's a good thing. But like I said, the snake Plisskenist, I just want to I guess I'll sum up on that. He's just basically using all this as just a way to rationalize a lot of his bad habits, and so it just seems kind of ironic that he's selling exactly the opposite kind of poison of look, I just slop my way through life. That's the way to get through life. I mean, just saying, I don't even use Band-Aids. I don't do this. Blah, blah, blah. I don't get infected. No, it makes my immune system stronger. I mean, it's all these little stupid rationalizations for just being incredibly lucky. I've certainly had personal experiences like that where you've just said, that you just skirted a big one, that your recklessness almost got you killed, and that you could have ended up paralyzed. You could have ended up in a terrible position because of the lack of caution or care or thought you gave to what you were doing. And it's just unfortunate that slobs like him, and I mean slobs in terms of slobs of character, people of low character, will sell that kind of ideology of just make up a lie to live by, keep yourself comfortable with yourself, and everything will work out just fine. Yeah, for you. Might not work too well for your victims. Yeah. He was driving around on a bald tire, because he's horrible poverty. But now look how great his life turned out. He's almost talking like he has a great life, because he's such a spiritual personality or something. But anyway, just kind of ironic. But I bet you gave no thought to, it's not so much about you flying off the road because your tire blows out. It's the fact that you might fly into somebody else and put them in a wheelchair. And I wonder if he could glibly just step past that mistake, those kinds of mistakes. But maybe he's already made those kind of mistakes. Maybe he's already ruined a few hundred people, and so he's used to it by now. He's quite comfortable. They brought on their own disaster. Well, that was part of the theme of the video, which was hilarious. That he was, I don't know what he was doing. Like I said, it's so hard to tell whether he's joking or not joking, lying or not lying. But the theme of the video is one of these idiotic things like, you bring on your own disaster. If you caught a cold, it's because you were thinking badly. Yeah. It's just like, come on. Shit happens. It doesn't have that much to do with you sometimes. Sometimes it's the world clocking on you, and sometimes you clock the world. But there's no complex control. The control has to be in these mechanisms of inspiration and communication, and some of it is unintended and some of it is directly intended, where you try to persuade somebody to think better, to have better thoughts, and shadow. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's enough of the video. I believe it is. Yeah, cat sneezing. I don't want to catch a cold. Anyway, yeah, I think so. Look at all this stuff growing in this tree, which is kind of neat. So anyway, I will continue to make videos with the intent. I mean, it's not some sort of personal therapy. Some people make videos which just makes them feel better about themselves. But obviously, my intent is to eventually, hopefully, in some way, possibly, affect people to migrate into different behavior, ultimately. Think different and then do different in the world, kind of thing. And I think that is a legitimately defined function of a civilized human, is to, if you see something that's going to make the clocks work better, if you see a way to make this make more sense in terms of the waste that's in our function, it would seem a reasonable, sensible thing that we would attempt to do that, to point that out to each other, and to make it all work out a little bit better. I mean, ultimately I'm selling the philosophy of the whole thing we're doing is just a bunch of wasted clockwork. I mean, you could just pull the gear out and it's, you don't lose anything. Just turn the clocks off, quit making clocks, and then you won't have to worry about, how much gear, how much stuff is getting ground up in the gear, how much wasted suffering and angst and worry and concern and horror and fear and all the little nasty shit is being experienced on Earth. And it's just simply a head perception. I mean, obviously the perceptions are perceptions about the grandness of our existence are just illusions. They're just perceptions in the head. It's not written in the sky or on the trees that life is productive. It's not written on any fact about what's going on, that there's anything accomplished by having thinking, conscious, feeling things, trying to improve themselves even, and certainly doing all the stupid tricks we do. Those things certainly aren't worth doing more of. More chasing, more desiring, more wanting, more failing. Anyway, not quite the video I wanted to make, but it'll have to do. Well, till the next time. Yeah, this is all relevant just from a personal perspective, just because, I'm trying to get myself into better habits. And it is tricky. You sort of have a vision of what you want yourself to be, a mental perception, and it seems doable every day, and somehow you add up what you did during the day and you say, whoops, that's not exactly what I was supposed to do today. And so that's why it's sort of on my mind in terms of how do I get myself to how do I have a model of myself. Now it's just an idea of how do I migrate the self I am into that self kind of thing. Anyway, enough.